Would you quit that? Of course, pop-ups. I am live, it says. Okay. There we go. Gonna make like a rock and roll on out of here. Gonna hang out here for a few minutes, see if anyone joins in. And then if nobody does, then we'll just I'll talk to myself. And hopefully others who watch it after, of course. But so, a general idea, what I'm going to be talking about is kind of the food supply and the way of the world. I'm responding to a text right here. Hello, whomever. If you join in on the chat, I will respond back. But I have a quick email to respond to, or not email, text message to respond to about eggs. We'll get into that discussion here in a minute. So hold on. I am keeping some of my in-laws well supplied in eggs. My beautiful, beautiful birds are keeping my keeping everybody with more eggs than they know what to do with. Well, more eggs than I know what to do with. And I have more chickens that are going to start laying here probably next month. I like these new birds, though, a lot better than the other ones as far as temperament goes. But I'll tell you, chickens are the ultimate. They are the ultimate animal, in my opinion, for homesteading, preparedness, homesteading, all of that. They really, really, truly are, in my opinion. And now I don't eat rabbit. Like people say, oh, rabbit, and rabbit's good. Gee whiz, people. Don't you know I'm doing a live stream? No, they don't, because I don't tell anybody this. I just do it. Or what? Oh, yeah. So I don't eat rabbit. But, if you do, okay, rabbit, all right, I get it. And they make really good manure for your garden. Okay, I get it. And you can grow them or raise them really, really easy. But really, the thing about chickens is, as opposed to rabbits, And you can have them both. I mean, if you eat rabbit, then that's fine. You do you. But the thing about chickens is I don't have to kill my animal in order to have a protein source, and that's the good part about chickens is they lay eggs, and I don't have to kill a chicken to get protein. Um, okay. But what are we going to feed our birds or our animals in general? What are we going to feed them? Okay. All right. What are we going to feed our animals? We are selling crops that are used in animal feed, corn, soybeans. We're selling it to foreign countries like it's nobody's business. We are. So I'm actually considering, I'm kind of looking in, trying to get a setup going for me where I can actually grow at least a portion of the grains that I'm going to feed my birds. Actually, grow a portion of that for chicken feed. Um, so we'll try it. We'll see if I can. See how that works. Um, you know, I found some recipes people use to mix, the grains that they use to mix for their birds. But we'll see. But I am going to try something. If not to wholly replace the store-bought animal feed, at the very least to supplement it. And in the event that things really get stupid, I can always ramp production up in the next growing season. As long as I have that till I can do it, then we'll be good to go on that. So Creepy Joe is signing more executive orders than any president, at least since Reagan, quite possibly in American history. It's like yesterday was a week for him. Like he's barely been in over a week and has already signed like 35, 40 executive orders, more or less. I do not like the direction that things are going right now. But on that level, there's not jack squat I can do about it. Nor you, for that matter. But we can manage things on a micro, localized level. And that's kind of the theme that I get anymore. And the theme that I've always been more of a local guy. But that's the theme I'm getting from a lot of other people is, listen, it's time to get local. That's how we're going to survive this thing. Um, This whole one big world, one world, it's a small world after all, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, nah, that ain't going to work. That's not going to save us. Um, we need to start thinking in the state level, in the county level, the municipality, city, zip code, whatever. But we need to start thinking local, um, because we can't continue things going the way that they're going. It's not sustainable. Talking to a coworker who's slightly younger than my parents' age. Um, and his grandparents' generation, which would have been my great grandparents' generation, were adults and grew up during the Depression. My grandparents' generation caught the tail end of it, but they weren't adults during the Depression. Um, and anyway, he was discussing stories from his grandpa about how money wasn't worth anything during the Depression. It's like he said, we had it, we had some of it, but we didn't. I mean, you just traded and bartered for things. You bartered for things that you needed, and then now this is in rural West Virginia during the Depression, and that's what they would do is they would barter and trade for things, and things were local, and people had milk cows, and people had chickens, and people had sheep, and the sheep got shorn, and the wool was sold to make yarn, and then it would go to the textile mill that was a couple counties over, or it would go to somebody who would buy the yarn and use it to knit or crochet, whatever, socks and scarves and things like that, and blankets. Um, and this would all happen within a couple of counties. My great grandmother on my dad's side, one of my great grandmothers on my dad's side, only left her county maybe 10 times in her life. She left the state once at the end of her life, when she uh, had cancer, or either cancer or she had a stroke. I can't remember. I was very young when this happened, but I do remember her being in the hospital. Anyway, so she was in the hospital, and she was passing away. And so she'd only left the state once or twice, and both of those were hospital visits. Um, and she stayed on the farm, and her husband, my great grandpa, he would have to travel to go work, and so she was left to tend the farm. Um, but she had chickens, and she sold eggs. She had milk cows, and she sold the milk, and she had sheep, and she sold the wool, and she had hogs, and they would fatten the hogs, and what they would slaughter to eat, they would, and what they wouldn't, they would sell. And and that's just what you did back then. And I talked to my parents, and in my parents' age, like it was, when they were growing up, it was everybody had somebody who was on a farm, and you all went together with hogs. And I don't eat pork either, but the concept, I like the concept. Okay. And he said, then this is just kind of where we've gotten on a self, like this is just kind of where we are in this world. That people would raise hogs, and they would, but the people that lived in town, my grandparents' generation and their kids, my parents' generation, they they wouldn't have the space or the ability to have homes in town, so they would keep them at the old farm, the old home place, grandma's. um and they would all contribute on the money, and grandma and grandpa would, whoever, they would take care of them, and they would come up so often, and go and help. And then when it come time to slaughter and butcher, then everybody got together and everybody butchered hogs. Same way with deer season. When deer season came around, yeah, everybody got together, come together as a family, and worked up deer. And that's like my situation, my family. We still do this. We do this. We've done this with chickens, and gardening, canning, and it's a very good thing that coming together and helping each other out and working with each other. You know, you know, deer season comes around, and you come together, and you work up deer together and all of that. My dog is barking at something. I should have. I should have probably brought her in before I started this live stream, but I don't know what she's barking at. But I better go find out. I will be right back, folks. All right, folks, I'm back. Okay. All right, I'm back. I honestly don't know what it was all about. She barks up on the hillside and trying to figure out a time to get together and give people eggs. Who'd have thought it'd be so difficult to give away eggs? Hello, CR. How are you this fine Wednesday evening? um, uh, just discussing, well, food production and things of that nature, which is probably that's one of my big, uh, you did. I'll have to check that out later. Have to check that out when I get done here. Kind of the answer. I was gonna probably do a live stream tonight anyway, but but kind of the inspiration for this is watching some of the most recent content put out by the Ice Age Farmer, um, and just talking about animals, eggs, and the whole 9 yards. Um, it's some pretty crazy stuff what the big they is trying to do with the food supply. Whether well, let's rephrase whether it is intentional or not, whether it's someone intentionally doing this or not. It's pretty scary stuff what's happening, at least to the U.S. I can't speak for Canada with the food supply, but China keeps buying up our animal feed and we keep selling it to them, and we don't have the big stores to be selling a lot of that stuff and still be able to feed our own livestock. Um, there's also potential for there's also a seed shortage going on right now, which is wonderful. Absolutely. Actually, I don't know how long you've been on here, but I just got back inside because I had to let the dog back in. But before I uh, had to go check on the dog, pea seeds. Yeah, um, I'm thinking about growing peas as well, but the wife doesn't really care for them. I would probably grow them as an animal feed if I did. Um, I mean, I like them, but wife doesn't really care for them, and so you grow what you're going to use, right? Uh, but I was kind of talking about just it wasn't that long ago in my area's history that everybody had a family farm to go back to. Like this area, we're not, more than a couple of generations away from a family farm. Like, uh, I had mentioned my great grandparents, and when my dad was growing up, everybody would go out to grandma's right? um, beets and if you're wanting CO2 and the nitrogen back into the soil, beets and turnips are a phenomenal cover crop. And you just put the tops, like just cut the, you know, I mean, you just cut the tops off and plow that up, and that does an amazing job as a just a mix of beets and turnips. Does a good job at putting nitrogen back into the soil. And beets and turnips are also, well, probably not. It cannot be beat. That's funny. But you know, beets and turnips are actually very good eating. I don't know if you've had them or not, but they are quite tasty. Um, and beets and turnips, before the potato made its way from South America to Europe, beets and turnips were the staple crops of Europe. Like they were the big staple crops there, staple root crops anyway. Um, but when the potato came uh, across the water into the New World, then the potato kind of took over. But but like I said, beets and turnips do a very good job. We've had very good luck, very good success with using beets and turnips as a cover crop. Also good if you want to bring in the white-tailed deer because they absolutely love to eat the tops on those. So um, that can be problematic. But but yeah, like I said, around here, like we're not that far away from a what's from a family farm. And okay, so you've got good deal, good deal. You getting it ready? Well, I have a chicken coop that needs mucked out, and so that will be plenty of biomass, as you put it. I really do need to clean that thing out. But it's kind of rough. I've had to discipline our rooster. He decided that he thought I was a lot smaller than I am. Oh yeah. Um, but honestly, like one of the best, you know, animals are just really good for your soil. Just to have them for the manure for the compost. Um, but uh, but so I yeah I will I'll say this dealing with roosters I had to we have our Australorp rooster. Uh, hey man, yeah, the green thumb, it does take getting back into. Um, I have had iffy success on this piece of property, and I've been at it for 5 years here. And I've had some success. I've not had a crazy amount of success, but now that I have the animals to have that good manure, good compost, I'm hoping to get my garden spots built up really well. Just from that. But that'll be doable. And yeah, the rooster decides it wants to peck at me and try and flog me when I reach down in to get to the eggs. It's done it a couple of times, and I've just pushed him back, swatted him away. Absolutely. I prefer to use the banana peels as compost after passing through a chicken's digestive system. uh, but so yeah, he wasn't getting the message. He wasn't getting the message, and so I took a stick with me, and the next time he decided he wanted to go, that's all we can do. I proceed to show the bird what's boss. Who's boss? He has not done it yet. And we needed a rooster attitude adjustment. But yeah, no, man. All you can do is just what you can do. It's just so we actually started looking at property elsewhere, and I don't know if anything's going to happen, but we kind of started looking at South Dakota, believe it or not, as a potential place to move to. And I don't really have any grand desire to leave West Virginia. But the politics around here are they're not horrible, but they're not as good as they could be. Good deal. But yeah, the eggshells, I think we've talked about this in previous live streams, but the eggshells are really good, yeah, for the garden. But like I say, with the chickens, you need to give them, or I always give them back to the chickens to give the chickens the calcium that they need because they're making an egg every day. Um, uh, and I lost my train of thought. I don't know how people that have like 5 or 6 or more people on the chat. I don't know how they keep track of all of everything. But oh, absolutely, better than winding up in the landfill. It's like one of the guys at work had gotten they're like crushed pretzel pieces, cinder. They're like a crushed pretzel piece that has some kind of flavoring on them, and it's like he's like, "Do you want these?" I was like, "No, I don't." But I guess they were stale or they were hard or something. Anyway, he wasn't going to eat them, and I was like, "No, I don't really want them." And he's like, "Well, I'm going to throw them away." I said, and I'm like, "What? No, here, put them in the bag," because I always take a bag lunch, and I end up eating hard-boiled eggs, and I take shell to take it back to give to the birds. And it's like, just dump them in here, and I'll give them to the chickens. And it's like, it's better than throwing it in the trash. Um, and it's like, I've had people just give me their food that they don't want, and so I can give it to my birds. It's like those birds have eaten Taco Bell, fast food, and everything. Just, not from me getting it. It's just from people getting it and like not wanting it, and it's like, well, I'm gonna throw it away. It's like, well, don't throw it away. Um, it's like, I've got chickens that like to eat scraps. Um, but uh, oh, absolutely, it is. If you can recover the nutrients and get it back into the ground, you're going to be way better off. I mean, you think about, oh yeah, better off in the long run. That run, I kind of figured that's what you were meaning. Um, but yeah, no, you're better off to keep it into the cycle. And it's like, because the way those landfills work, I mean, it just, everything that goes in there, it's just going to be wasted. I mean, it gets, the, of course, they would need to keep stuff out of it, or at least the way that the landfill system works with us, where I'm at. Then, I mean, it has this big, crazy barrier that keeps all the stuff that you don't want into the ground separated from the ground, but it also keeps everything else out of it. And they just bury it, and they put like a big cover over it after it's all said and done, and just bury it. Excuse me, bury it, and it doesn't see the light of day for thousands of years. Oh, absolutely. Um, See, ours, the nearest landfill to us, they actually are filling in um, like an actual natural space between two hills. Or like, they're actually cut into that and are actually filling that in. But it's had um, the seal, and however they do that, to in the U.S. to keep it from leaching into the groundwater, and all that fun stuff, right? But it, I don't know about the height, but when I was on ship, some of the countries we would go to, like Japan and the U.S., we have our own method of dealing with hazardous materials. Um, hey, reuse. My chicken, my chickens get grain in an old coffee can. I gather the eggs in an old coffee can. It's like, reduce, reuse, recycle, and all of that, and it makes more sense. Um, there's no sense in going and buying a feed scoop when this, coffee can works perfectly fine as a feed scoop. Um, it saves me money. It saves, the environment. It's a win-win situation here. um, but like, yeah, some of the countries they would deal with hazmat very properly and would actually go to hazardous material disposable. Like, and by hazmat, I'm talking grease, oil, oily rags, um, batteries, paint, things like that. And they would, go and take it and deal with it properly. Well, other countries they wouldn't, and they just basically had a hole in the ground right next to the ocean where we were supposed to dispose of all of our trash, like right off of the pier. And it's just a hole in the ground. And they just dug a hole and just like throw all the trash, hazardous materials, everything in there, and then they would. I don't know what they would do with it afterwards. But it's like really. Um, people like to get on to the Western world about how much trash, plastic wise, we put into the ocean. Like, honestly, these people need to be in some of the places that I was in the South Pacific and, around the Philippines, Thailand, um, near China, Hong Kong. All of these places were horrible about putting plastic into the oceans. Um, like Indonesia, Malaysia, horrible with plastic in the oceans. Um, and it's like, man, but yet it's at least our news likes to say how it's all America's fault. It's like it's really not. Like we're not even in the top 10 offenders. I don't think we're even in the top 10 offenders on plastic in the oceans. Oh yeah, like it's insane how much plastic is floating around in the oceans around some of these countries. It's like we would see the trash floating around long before we would, and in great enough quantities that we could tell which country we were heading towards before we even. It's like we could tell that we were heading to the Philippines because we could see the trash and we recognized the trash. Um, that's and that's not a joke. That's the way it was. Um, it's crazy. Um, and talking about trash and trash disposal is like we would. Okay, I am intrigued. What manner, other than washing and reusing them as just straws, what other ways have you found to reuse straws? I am intrigued. I've seen where people take new straws and they'll use them, like crimp the ends off with something inside and use it for a tiny little like storage capsule to store something in. Oh, okay. Oh, excuse me, a little survival tin or something like that. But oh, okay, all right, interesting. I will have to look at that. Have to check that out. I am because that has piqued my interest as to a way of reusing straws. But like I use plastic bottles and jugs for water storage. That's a big thing with me, is washing out like old jugs, old milk. I don't do the milk jugs so much, um, but just because it's such a pain in the neck to try and get all of the milk itself out, and keep the water clean, I guess you could say. Um, but I don't drink pop or soda, as many people call it. I don't drink that really anymore. But when I did, we would wash out our 2 liter bottles and all of that, and fill them up and have them for water storage. So I still have like old Mountain Dew bottles full of water stashed away somewhere around here. Of course, it all gets changed out periodically. Yeah, honestly, I don't remember the last time I I had any soda. Um, I do remember the last time, but I don't remember how long ago it was. I was in an Aldi store. Yeah, I gotta have my coffee. Um, but I was in an Aldi and I'm like, I really want a Coke. Like I've been craving it. I hadn't had one in like 3 months. It's like I really want a Coke, and I made it like halfway through a bottle of Coke, and I'm like, jeez, I can't finish it. I ended up. It was the summer at some point. It was at some point in the summer because I remember I poured it. Um, I poured it in one of the pots that I have for my pepper plants. For some of my pepper plants, anyway. So yeah, it's been a while for me and drinking pop. But yeah, coffee. I drink a lot of that, and coffee grounds is really good in your garden as well. Makes really good compost. And the coffee filter, if you use a paper coffee filter, a good way that you can get reuse from the coffee filter and biodegradable and everything is, and it really helps with the garden too, is take and dump your coffee filter out around your plants. And so you have the coffee filters keeping the weeds down from right around your tomato plants, and it gets the nutrients from the coffee itself. Um, so that's something to think on. Um, but so yeah. Hot coffee grounds on ice. Okay. I, I'm not an iced coffee person myself. Um, like I used to drink, and they came in the vending machines when I was in Japan. Um, and some of their coffee drinks had like coffee with iced coffee with cream and sugar and stuff in it, and those were really good. I drank way too many of those things. Um, but they but that was about it. And I would drink the cold blood because they would sell. bottles, like metal bottles of black coffee. And sometimes at the vending machine, like it would be labeled as hot or cold, and I would drink it either hot or cold at that point. But it's definitely not a thing for me. I much prefer hot coffee to ice. Uh, and now all this coffee talk is making me want coffee. So CR, you are to blame for this. Well, yeah, it would absorb the sunlight. I don't know what you're growing out there in the snow, but I don't know what you're trying to grow out there in the snow, though, bud. Usually by the time I put plants in the ground, there's no no snow. But oh, giving myself a little chuckle. Um, so yeah, I can tell. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But no, been almost an hour. It's like I've been on here almost an hour. It's like, oh, excuse me. Yeah, 7 or 8 minutes shy, but uh, but no, I could be drinking coffee all day. I do. Uh, if I've got it, I drink it all day. But but let's see. All right. Well, if I'm still here, um, we can continue the conversation. But if I'm not, then uh, you take her easy, bud. So, anybody who's watching this after the fact, if you've made it through all of this and are still listening, thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm kind of, I mean, I don't do super active on YouTube anymore, but I'm kind of scaling back YouTube even more. Um, I'm, I'm looking for alternate sources. I'm on, uh, shoot. Take her easy. Oh, but yeah, I'm on Rumble and BitChute. I'm trying to figure out which one's going to work out the best, or maybe it's not either one of them. And then, so I'm on those two. Um, I'm on Gab. I'm not entirely super active on Gab, and I'm on Minds, and I'm a little more active on Minds than I am on Gab, to be perfectly honest. But I am on both of those. And I do a podcast on Podbean, the Podbean app. Um, Excuse me. Whew. God. Can't quit yawning right now. But, oh, mercy. Folks, the world is on fire. But not around here. I'm gonna wake up in the morning, make my coffee, make my breakfast, go out and probably bust ice for the chickens because it's supposed to get pretty cold tonight. The next several nights it's supposed to get pretty cold. So I'll probably have to bust the ice for the chickens. And so I'll do that. No matter, if the world blows up or not. And that's all we can do. Just work towards getting as separate, as independent as we can of the system. Work on repurpose what we can, save yourself a little bit of money. Make as much stuff on your property as possible. As much of your, as much as what you need on your property as you can. And meet people nearby, hopefully, that have access or skills that you don't have. I mean, that's how society works, and we're gonna need society that can function apart from this big globalist society. Because if you don't, and to some degree, even if you do, you're still gonna have to play by their globalist rules. And I love how I mentioned the word global society, and my viewership just dropped. Not that it was super high; it was like 3 people. That's funny. I'm actually curious if there were shenanigans involved on YouTube's part. First one shot. Hello. How are you on this fine Wednesday evening? We're talking, I'm talking to myself at the moment, or I was talking to myself about how the world is going to pot, but not around here. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. But the yeah, we're working on a local level right now, trying to it really depends. Right now things are running around 1,000 an acre. You can, if you get it for 800 or no, if you get it for like less than that, it's probably between 700 and 1,000 an acre out around here. Yeah, it's not too bad. If you get it for less than 1,000 though, it's probably going to be like this. It's going to be hillside. Yeah, West Virginia is actually a very low income place to live. I read an article and someone had taken. Oh yeah, it would definitely be very wooded. Yeah, if you find it for 800, probably 800 an acre or so, it is not got. It might have an electric hookup, but it probably doesn't have any water hookup. You would have to dig your own well or collect rainwater or whatever. You would it 800 an acre. It's going to be mostly woods on a hillside, and it's going to be. Hey, how did you get out of your crate? This dog is a Houdini, but yeah, it's going to be mostly hillside and not and very very wooded. You'll have to do a lot of work to make or do some work anyway to make it a usable farm, and you'll be farming on a hillside. Oh, it's absolutely reasonable. It's um now, but the closer you get to town, of course, the pricing goes up. Um, the pricing goes up the closer you get to town, but that works for me. And of course, buildings and all that is a big deal. But like some of the really nice farms that are not super far away from town, that are actually really nice and nicely set up, those are running for probably 1,200. No, I wouldn't either. Um, yeah, 1,200, and then of course depending on the housing situation and buildings and all of that. But now West Virginia has the lowest annual income required of any other state to own a home. And this, I cannot remember the article or the setup that I read, but these guys had taken and did a layout of the most the income required for a person to become a homeowner. And in West Virginia, it was only like 26,000 a year. You only need to make like 26,000 a year to buy a house here, um, or to be a homeowner, and get a chunk of property. But you're looking at a state that has a population only slightly larger than Columbus, Ohio. Um, there's like the 2014 census is the numbers I'm going off of. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, it's like West Virginia. The 2014 census had like 1.84 million people, and then a 20-mile radius around Columbus, Ohio, had like 1.75 million. Last I looked it up, and it's probably pretty different. I've been up to Columbus several times. I mean, it's a fairly common trip. Um, I go to it probably once, twice a year, maybe, but much less now. Um, yeah, no, much. I don't go to Columbus much anymore now. I used to go at least once a year for it was called the Equine Affair, big horse to do that they had at the state fairgrounds up there, and just like five some odd days of nothing but horse everything, and so we would go up there, but they canceled it this year, and I didn't go the year before that anyway. Um, uh, I always I feel I like it when I'm in there, but when I go out and about on I'm not. Okay, yeah, this is different than the Quarter Horse Congress. I know people that go to that too, or have gone to that too, but it's different than that. This is usually held. Okay, okay, I know where that is. um, but yeah, West Virginia. I mean, you can look up the properties. I mean, there's websites all over the place if you're person's looking for property for sale out there. Um, but my father-in-law might be putting a bid in on like 86 acres that are in my area. Oh yeah, no, Columbus would get stupid really, really quick. From at least the way the news makes it sound, Columbus is stupid anyway right now. Um, one year while we were up at this equine affair, they do a big deal every night um, called It's called Fantasia, and it's like all these. Yeah, yeah, the way too high. Um, but yeah, they would do this big thing, this big show. It's like bunch of acts and stuff, just everything from western to circus to this, that, and the other, all done to music, all involving horses and people, of course. But so we would get tickets to that one night. Well, one night, me and my wife, and it's like finished up like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. Probably was about 12:30 by the time we got out, and we made a wrong turn, and we wound up in the wrong neighborhood on like a Friday night, and I'm like, my wife was driving, and I was like, stop, and we stopped in the middle of the road, and I don't know what kind of turn it was, but turned, we backed up, turned around, and got out of there. Yeah, it was at the state fairgrounds. It's usually around Easter. Um, the the Coliseum is usually where they would hold the Fantasia at. It was usually like the week before Easter or the week after Easter. Yeah, they absolutely are. Um, yeah, we wound up in the wrong neighborhood, and uh, I was glad. I mean, obviously, we didn't need to use it or anything like that, but I was glad to have concealed carry because that there was, yeah, without getting too crazy, that was at the ready. We'll say that because um, it was, yeah, it was a little sketchy. um, but no, that was about the big thing that would get me up there. That is kind of funny that the right there. Uh, yeah, and then I've been in that part of Columbus, and then I've been in like the suburbs outside of Columbus where there's speed bumps in the street like every 100 feet, and every house that you can see for miles around looks exactly the same. I've been in those places too around Columbus, And you know what? It's a nice, like my wife likes the mall there. Oh, what's that mall? Oh, I want to say Green Mills, but that's not it. Okay, you live in one of those places. Okay. Yeah, I didn't care for that either for a different reason. But oh, Easton, I think. Um, Easton Mall, the one that kind of doesn't really look like a mall. It's like it's like they've got a bunch of storefronts and stuff, but there is like an actual mall there. Um, yeah, my wife she likes that Easton Mall there. I never did care. I know I don't really care for it, but whenever we go up there, uh, yeah, yeah, it. But I tell you, the people that like when I the few times that I've when I do go up there and I've been in that Easton Mall, like the people around there always seem friendly enough, nice enough people. But oh well, yeah. Trust me, my alert when I cross out of West Virginia, I go from yellow to like I am my threat matrix really kicks off. Um, oh, I am I have no doubt. I actually remember hearing a news story. We had been there like the day before, and this girl gets shot in the Victoria's Secret over like it was some domestic dispute over there, and this woman got ticked off at her and just hauls off and shoots her. It was like they were fighting probably over I think over a man or something, but um, yeah, um, there. I mean, there's parts of the nearest town to me that get a little sketchy after dark too. So um, nothing near like Columbus. Well, I would say the nearest big town next to me because there's nearer towns to me, but um, there's certain streets that you um, when you're down there, there's certain streets that you have the windows rolled up if you drive down there at night. Um, but nothing to the level right now. Nothing to the level that parts of Columbus are like. Yeah, Charleston. Yeah, that actually not too long ago. I think is either Charleston City police officer or Kanawha County Sheriff's deputy. She got killed. A guy just hauled off and shot her. And she was only like 20, 22 years old or something. Like she's just a fairly new police graduate, if I remember correctly. But yeah, Charleston, it can get kind of sketchy. Um, Morgantown can get kind of sketchy. Huntington can get kind of sketchy. Fairmont, yeah, a little crazy over there. Parkersburg gets a little crazy. Um, a little sketchy in Parkersburg. Um, Parkersburg isn't horrible. Um, it's really, and most of these places, as long as you're not being stupid after dark, um, or involved in drugs in one form or another, like that's the big issue. Like I know being through Parkersburg, yeah. Um, I mean, Parkersburg, it's not horrible. Like it's nothing even near the level that Columbus can get. Like I've walked down the streets of Parkersburg at night unarmed in my youth or more youth, like before, prior to 18, we'll say that. And like I wasn't a bit worried or anything. Yeah, I mean, heroin's what's really bad, and like heroin's really bad here, and the prescription pills like OxyContin are really bad around here. It used to be meth. It used to be meth really bad around here, but it's not so much anymore. Heroin's kind of took over. But guys would, and they probably still do. They would cook meth around here because or around like the Parkersburg area. Well, just West Virginia in general. Yeah, uh, I stay clear of all of it. So, um, but the heroin, yeah, the heroin's a really big thing right now. It's really bad. Um, like one of my relatives used to work at a fast food restaurant, which was in Vienna, which is right next to. I don't consider that a drug. I don't make it. Um, I could if I wanted to, but I don't make it. Um, it's not that difficult. Yeah, yeah, the mall right there in Vienna. Um, but one of the fast food restaurants she used to work, a relative used to work in, and they had a girl OD'd in the bathroom. Like they had to, yeah, yeah, in Vienna, she OD'd. She went into like the bathroom, locked the door, and OD'd on heroin, like middle of the day. Um, Actually, in their church has a picnic shelter, um, and and I know people have had to run people out in broad daylight having sex at a picnic shelter in front of a church. Like, just straight up guy and a girl having sex on a picnic bench, on a picnic table at a picnic shelter owned by the church, right next to the church that also is a daycare. Um, so, when things are getting like that, it's you know, but yeah, like that kind of region of West Virginia is about where I'm around. Um, I spent a lot of my time growing up is around in that area. Yeah, yeah. That age, you don't need drugs to just. You don't need the drugs. Um, you you're just ready to go whenever. Uh, um, I have never seen them off, man. No. I'll say this because I'm on some groups on social media that there's some people out west talking about like skinwalkers and things like that. And I will be honest with you, I've never seen anything in the hills up here that I couldn't fix with double up buck. um, um, but no, I've never seen them off, man. Um, I have seen Bigfoot's cousin, but he was wearing a pair of bibs and smoking a pipe, corncob pipe. But Um, oh, but I've seen bears. Actually, my father-in-law's caught on his trail cam. He had a feeder set up on me, and a bear went in. He got pictures of him on his trail cam, and he went in and just destroyed the corn feeder to get at corn, tore everything up, ate all the corn, and just left. Um, I've seen them, bobcat, uh, bobcat for sure. I've seen. My parents have seen a black panther. Whether it's an actual panther or not, I don't know. But it was it was a big black cat, and it was a lot bigger than a house cat, and it was a lot bigger, or it was bigger than your average bobcat. Um, Coyotes are the big issue around here. Um, lots of coyotes, and no wild hogs, not in this part of the state. Now down far the southern end of the state, they're getting to be a problem from what I've heard. Um, but nowhere near like they are down south, like in Texas way. Yeah, I've heard. Shoot, I've heard of coyotes being in New York City, so that doesn't surprise me that they would be up in Columbus too, because there's supposedly a new species coming about called the coy wolf in the eastern United States, and it's a hybrid basically of domesticated dogs, wolves, and coyotes, and it's come from where it's so built up in the East Coast, and then the breeding routes and everything, and so they've just kind of all interbred and created something. Um, the red wolf, and maybe that's what they're calling it now. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I've seen coyotes that looked half German Shepherd. I mean, like it could have been a German Shepherd, like except for just a few. All right, but yeah, except for like a few little factors, it could have been. Uh, what dog? Huh? What? You were supposed to still be in your crate. Yeah, you were supposed to be in your crate. Mercy sakes. What? Man, I'm live. But see if I can find. I'm gonna look for the picture of a bear. I can find him. What? Let's see. Timmy Diggin picture. Dog, you were gonna shake. You're shaking the camera. I know you don't know what we're talking about. You don't care. Just as long as you get scratches and food and everything else, you don't care, do you? What do you hear? What's just a truck using a break? I know I've got a picture of this bear that tore through. I know I do somewhere. Let me see. Yeah. Well, maybe I just messed up. I don't know. Anyway, I had pictures of it. But where it is, I do not know. Oh, there it is. All right, for anybody who is watching here or who makes it this far, anybody is watching. All right, I think I'm gonna get out of here. Damn. About that time, I'm kind of running out of stuff to talk on. So if you made it to the end here, y'all take her easy. And thank you.